Hello, Austin County. This is Greg Stuessel here, and our guest today is Kim Rinn with Austin County. She is the Tax Assessor Collector, the election official, and the voter registrar. So welcome, Kim. And we also have
Shelley Brian.
And Shelley is our illustrious number 2. And so we're going to let Kim take it away.
Well, good morning. So we'll start off with how many registered voters we have in Austin County. We're blessed to have a growing number. That number at the moment is 22,325. That does change daily. And
I was just going to interrupt you and say, my husband is going to add one more to it, and it'll be 326. He's going to vote today.
Well, so how do y'all, you actually have to be registered to be counted in that number, right?
That's correct. So this number, this 22,325 is as of 30 days ago or a little bit as of the 7th of October, actually. So those are the folks that are registered as of that date. We do make changes daily. So there are folks coming in and as well, new folks, as well as when folks pass away, then we take those off the voter rolls. But so we kind of stay within that range. But if you ran a report this morning to determine how many registered voters you have, and you tried to run that same report again this evening, it's very likely it's going to change by a few. So whenever someone passes, we take them off the rolls. Whenever somebody comes in, we add them to the rolls.
How long do you have to be here before you can register to vote?
It's 30 days.
Okay.
So your voter registration becomes effective 30 days after you register. So.
Well, we're good. So we've been here more than 30
days. If it's not the 30 days, then you need to go back where you used to live and vote. Is that what you're saying?
It's going to depend on certain circumstances. If you have lived here in this county and you came into my office to vote, and you are registered, you would more than likely limited vote, because when you leave your county, you can't go back to that county to vote.
Okay.
So, and limited voting is only applicable in early voting. You would not wait until election day for that to happen. Then the only option is provisional. And in that case, it's not always a guarantee that that vote will count when you have to vote provisional.
Yeah, because, somebody out there is going to decide the day before, I need to go get in there and vote. And so they need to know they need to go ahead and get to it.
Absolutely. 30 days is the rule of thumb with respect to can I vote in an election. So prior to that election, it needs to at least be 30 days. I think I
didn't hear her presentation, or maybe you cover this. Do they have to do it in person, or is it online?
You can do it online. The best source of voter registration, or the easiest, is through DPS. When you do your driver's license, and as DPS rules indicate that you should change your driver's license within 30 days of moving or changing a name or doing anything. So you can check the little box that says register to vote, and that information comes to us really the quickest.
That's what we did when we changed our driver's license. We immediately did that. We, within a few days, got our voter registration card.
Exactly. So it's really the best way to do it. You can register online. I don't recommend it because I think there are some faults in the Secretary of State system as far as getting that data to us.
Right.
You can always print out an application and then mail it into us as well. Okay. Or walk one in as well. But in order to be eligible, you must be at least a U.S. citizen. You have to be a resident of our county or any county that you happen to. Greg, this thing is really sensitive. You must be at least 17 years and 10 months old, or 18 as of election day. You cannot be a felon, and you cannot be declared incompetent by a court of law as well. So those are the eligibility requirements set forth by the state. Okay. So once you do get registered to vote, you will receive a card very similar to this. It is this year it's yellow. Those those colors change every 2 years. We send out in mass mail voter registration cards every 2 years. And essentially the voter registration, it's really a certificate that it's kind of a rundown of the information we have on you back at our office. It's got your address, it's got your VUID number, it's got important information such as where your voting districts are. So, for instance, if you are in Sealy ISD, then you would look at the section that says school district, and it should, well, it doesn't say it on this card because this is an example, it would say SISD on there. And those districts are real important when you need to know what precinct you're in. If you go to the commissioner precinct, like this one says Commissioner Precinct 1, well, this is an example of someone who is in Precinct 1. If you live in Precinct 2, those numbers are going to change. And I'm not so sure folks really understand the gist of what all of that means. And it's super important to look at that because errors can be made. We're human. This stuff gets inputted. If it's coming in through DPS, it generates it through DPS, but then we have to make sure we place the voter in the right jurisdiction. So,
and say, because I've done that before, I've thought, well, gee, because I lived here, I could, vote anywhere, and then went down there and they were like, we're so sorry, you have to go
right
across the street. And it didn't seem, I was like, well, it's all right here. And they're like, no, but that was the line that,
yes, absolutely. Ultimately, it is up to the voter to make sure that the information is correct. Again, if it is a clerical error, we acknowledge that and we make those corrections and changes as needed. But a lot of the voters don't really pay good attention to that. And this gets mailed out every 2 years. And anytime you happen to change anything on your voter information, or if you go in and you renew your driver's license, that's the first thing that generally prompts us to send you a new voter registration card.
Yeah, and I did notice that they changed colors, and I wondered about that. Yes. I guess
it's every 2 years they are a different color. Last year they were blue, and I think the year before that they were orange.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So every year it's a different color. So when you come in to vote into our office, we're going to ask you primarily for your driver's license. That's the best way to come in and vote. However, there are other forms of identification we will accept. Texas Election Identification Certificate by DPS, personal handgun license, personal identification card, U.S. military card, citizenship certificates, and passports. So
just anything that's officially official.
Well, this is a hard list. The election code says that these are the only forms of acceptable identification for us. Okay. If there is anything that, if you do not possess any of these forms of identification, then you could still perhaps vote. And that throws you into another realm, which is called reasonable impediment. So I didn't bring that slide with me as far as what those forms are, but just because you don't have that doesn't necessarily mean you don't get to vote. But you would have to qualify for another set.
Bring something with a picture on it and your name, and you should be good.
A library card is not going to work.
Oh,
okay.
No library card.
No library cards. And no, like credit cards, Sam's cards, those sort of things are not going to work.
You'll date yourself. No Blockbuster card.
Nope.
Does that happen a lot? People come in with some weird stuff?
On an occasion, it does. It does. For the most part, everybody knows their driver's license. And we have a few voters who like to test the waters. And we know them well. So,
yes.
Most of our voters are really very diligent and know that the driver's license is the best thing to do.
I was going to say, it's a small county. It's not like it's, New York City where you have, 50,000 people in line for voting that you have no idea. You've never seen these people.
One luxury that I've had since I've started is that I have a group of clerks who work early voting and judges and alternate judges who've worked election day, who've been with me since I've started this process. And so, yes, they know a lot, or start knowing a lot of folks, and they know that who wants to test the waters, and so they get through it. And I'm very grateful to those folks that have sustained some longevity with me since I've started this. So good. So when you do come in to vote, we will take your driver's license. You would check in with a poll pad, and your ballot would go inside that little printer that says Express Vote right there. And then what would come once we process you with your driver's license, that driver's license keys or the poll pad keys off the driver's license, and it then prints a barcode with that little printer, and that barcode simply just says that person is in precinct 415 or that person is in precinct 101, and that's all it'll say on, or that barcode represents. And of course, for later on down the road, we need to know where you're printing or where you're voting. So that's why it would say the annex, or why it would say Hill Center if you're voting early or something like that. So that's important information. I'll explain that later. Once you get that ballot, you would insert it inside the Express Vote. It is a ballot marking device. It is not a computer. It does not store data other than the ballot data. It does not know who you are when you walk in and insert that ballot in the machine. You would mark your selections, and once you complete your selections, then it will spit out those selections on the vote, or on the ballot, excuse me. So, and then once your ballot is complete, you'll walk over to the DS200. It is an on-site tabulating device. So when you walk up to it, it's always important to see or look. There's a number there's actually two numbers. There's a top number, and that tells you how many voters have gone through that polling location and have cast a ballot. And then the bottom number is how many ballots have been scanned through that device. And that's through the life of the device, not per election or anything like that.
And we could be able to see that?
Yes, you can see there. It's literally on there. So if, for instance, I walked up to it and it said 2,900 on there, and I insert my ballot, then it should say 2,901. So it's keeping track of how many voters have voted in that election. We must start out, when we start with on election morning or early voting morning, that number starts at 0. So, and we're...
Well, it's not today. It's not keeping tally of old votes.
It is. So the very first day of early voting, it starts off at 0 and it continues on all the way through early voting.
Gotcha.
Same way with election day. You go in on election day, it has to start off on 0 and it continually goes through. That's how we keep track of how many ballots are inside that box. And those numbers have to match back to how many people have checked in. And those poll pads are keeping track of the numbers as well. We're constantly watching those numbers.
And the whole thing about I'm going to put 2 or 3 ballots, extra later doesn't happen.
So when I go to the schools, I test the waters with them, and I let them know that if you were accidentally given 2 ballots, which I don't know that if it even really happens, but if you tried to tabulate 2 ballots through there, it'll kick them out. Okay. Likewise, if you try to do 2 through the Express Vote, it'll kick them out.
So it's got safeguards.
Yes. It knows, for instance, this year we're using a 17-inch ballot because we've got a lot of measures on the ballot, so it had to be a 17-inch ballot. So generally we use a 14-inch ballot. Well, if you wanted to rip a 8.5 by, or like a legal size piece of paper, you want it to rip it in half and try to put that in the Express Vote, it won't take it. It knows that it's a foreign type of paper, and it knows the difference between, if you feel have y'all voted yet?
yet.
Okay, so fill the paper, okay, and then go home and fill your paper with like just regular paper to touch. It's completely different kind of paper.
So it's like when you try to put the dollar in the soda machine and it kicks it out because it thinks
It knows that you're trying to put a $5 bill in there versus a dollar bill.
Okay.
Yes, it's sensitive to different types of paper. It knows that it has to read a 17-inch ballot versus a 14-inch ballot. So if somebody brought in, they, want it to be sly.
They'll use the barcode.
Yeah.
Printed on there.
That's right. It does read the barcodes. Yeah.
Don't bring extra paper and stuff it in there. It's not going to work.
No.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, it is.
The other thing, too, a lot of folks believe that this machine right here, this DS200 tabulator, is connected to the internet. The state of Texas legislatures make sure that we do not transmit any data through the internet when it comes to these tabulators, or we are not transmitting anything via internet where it could be hacked or anything. So we are, if you were to look at this device on site, the only thing that's got connected to it is a power cord.
So it's self-contained.
Yes.
It's not going anywhere. And that's good to know because a lot of people are, these days are nervous about their information going
Getting
out
hacked.
or how things are, or growing. So that's good to know that it's self-contained.
Right. We do rely on internet or Wi-Fi on the poll pads, but everything is connected with Wi-Fi hotspots, and those hotspots are not detectable. We've got those locked down. So if you walked into a polling location and tried to connect to one of our hotspots, you would not be able to
So again,
connect.
more security measures.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, all right. With respect to the next tabulator that we have, this is a DS450. You will not see these on site anywhere. This 450 is at my office. We use this tabulator to process ballot-by-mails. And that's pretty much the only thing we'll put through this DS450. In the event, though, there is failure on the DS200 tabulator, the on-site ones, then we do go to this machine. It is a backup for anything that's on-site. But again, for the most part, we use this machine for the ballot-by-mails.
And do you have a lot of ballot-by-mail?
At the moment, for this year, we have processed a little over 500 that has been sent out. I think I did bring that with me. We are 279 have been received. So, we've gotten a little over half back. Imagine next week they're going to really start coming in. And
what's bad about the ballot-by-mail is a lot of people, worry about stuff like that. But if you have people that are homebound, they want to vote, but if they have no one to take them, like my dad is in a wheelchair, but fortunately we're able to take him, but if not, then...
Right, the ballot-by-mail is the best option. And it's been a pretty good process. I'll be honest with you. I think over the years, the ballot-by-mails that we have sent out, we've gotten probably a good 80% back. So they're very serious voters as far as the ones who do want to participate. So I think that's a good number. If it were a whole lot less, I would be concerned that they weren't getting the ballots, or they maybe getting lost between the voter and us somehow. But it's been a good percentage. So I feel like it's, for us here in our county, our mail system has worked. But that remains to be seen yet, I guess, we haven't completed this cycle, so we'll see.
Right. But that's good to know, though.
Yeah. Okay, so going back to what I said about electronics in our county, I just want everybody to know that the way we vote here is not electronically. There's a sample ballot over here, as well as it's got 2 express votes that I made copies of for the slideshow purposes. But I just want you all to know that we are not electronic. And it doesn't matter if you bubble in or if you have the express vote. The machines are counting barcodes. They're not necessarily counting bubbles all the time, like in the traditional. And I don't know, let's see. There we go. So it may not be real easy to see, but, well, let's go back. So if you look at that sample ballot, the exterior of that sample ballot has a bunch of markings around the outside. And that's an example of what we've used in the past. And if I understand it correctly, that's been used for many, many years. Okay? But that is an example of a barcode. And that's how all of the tabulators in the old days were tabulating. That's a barcode. We just have simplified the barcode with the express vote ballot. So it doesn't matter how you want to look at it. The end of the day, we've been tabulating based off of barcodes.
So you don't have to worry about the whole rigmarole about, it's changing my vote, or I voted for Bob and it voted for Sue. That's not going to happen because it's not that kind of a voting machine.
The one thing I like about the express ballots that we have, it is very precise. So if you voted for anyone, or if you voted for a single person, it's going to show that name. And when you had the traditional ballot, if for some reason you had like an older person who was maybe a little bit on the shaky side, and they voted for, let's say they voted for Abbott, and another person's name was under it, and they were shaky, and that they bubbled both of those in, then you don't know really what the intent of that voter is. Right. So the express vote is very precise, and you're only going to see one name on there, and that's what I really like about those.
So you can't make a mistake, because I remember back in the old days, like you said, you had 500 bubbles and 200 people, and you had to go across the line and be very careful. So this kind of takes the guesswork out of it.
You're absolutely correct. Okay. But it means that we have to use the ballot marking devices to get to that point.
All right.
So,
well, I think the interesting thing that out of what, okay, so you're telling me that the dash mark around there and on the yellow one is a barcode.
Yes. So and that's how the tabulators.
Why don't we go back to the old way? The old way you were still doing the barcode.
Yes.
So the only thing that's happened is we've changed the form a little bit, but the function's still the same.
Exactly.
Okay. So even if we went back to the old way, you're still doing barcode voting.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Except with the express vote, you've got some decisiveness.
Gotcha.
Versus, and there have been people I've seen write on these ballots that says that this person is not a good person or something like that.
Good gravy.
Yeah. Wow. It can get comical, or, they're a crook, or, but so we don't have that, at least on the express votes. Or, they bubbled one in and then they put an X over it, and then they bubbled somebody else in. Well, the machine's going to kick that out because it's not, it doesn't understand that.
Right.
So, okay, we'll go over that. Something that we see that it's been this way for a very long time, as far as no cell phones that are allowed in the polling areas. Folks don't always understand that. They like to use their cell phones to look at. They may have their cheat notes written on their cell phones, and it's not acceptable. It's against the law to have them in there. We see folks trying to take pictures in the voting booth with their cell phones. That becomes an offense. So our voters, when it's discovered and we ask them to put them away, they generally are accepting. But
so
it's something that the waters get tested on a regular basis.
I was going to say, so it's kind of like when you go to confession, you're not supposed to bring anything in with you. It's supposed to be even the priest and this way it's you in the voting machine.
Right. Exactly. But know that we do our very best to make sure that we are in line with the law, and we don't like telling people to do that, but we have to.
I was going to say, with this TikTok generation, the whole, oh, look, I'm voting.
Yes. Yeah. So with respect to determining what precincts you happen to be in, did I skip a... Oh, I guess I didn't.
Real quick on the cell phone. So that's a state law that you can't...
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, that's a state law that you can't have the...
That's right.
Cell phone. That's not...
That's not
That's not something Kim's making up by any means. No, not a thing that I'm making up. So when it's all said and done, we go to we'll fast forward through the election, and we are the day after the election, and I will get an email from the Secretary of State, and it will say, Austin County, we want you to manually count the presidential race in Precinct 101, Precinct 205, and Precinct 415. So I have to go online, acknowledge that I've received the information, and print out the instructions that they generally give us and hand down to us. And at that point, we start manually counting the ballots again after the election is completed. Now, this has to be done afterwards. And this is a good tool that's been set out, and it's been there for as long as I've been in elections. I'm sure it's been there before that. So we manually count those precincts. And then once the count has been completed, we have to report the information back to the Secretary of State. Since we've been using the express votes, and since we've been using the new machines that we have and the tabulators, we have been spot on. There have been no discrepancies. Okay. So I feel really good about that. A lot of folks don't know that we do that manual count afterwards. And I just want everybody to know that this just helps me. It actually makes me feel a lot better that we're doing right. And it's a process that can take anywhere from a few hours to a few days, depending upon how big the election is. I will say that in the primary, it lasted a little bit longer than it normally did because we couldn't find one ballot.
Oh, no.
Yes. And we found it. Took us a couple hours to find that ballot, but know that we'll find it, and we did. So,
when you say find it, where was it? I mean, is it the physical ballot, or is it the?
Yeah, I mean, physically, we pull all those ballots, and
I say that it just
stuck together. When you get older, your hands are not as rough as they used to be, and the ballot just got stuck to another one. You go through, and when you're going through 10,000 ballots,
yeah,
trying to find one is not an easy feat, but we did it. So, and it's because we're bound and determined that we know that this system works.
And that's good to know that you're conscientious. Some people might be like, oh, it's just one ballot, but you can't do that. One ballot
when you do elections, that it's like being an accountant. If you're off by a penny in your checkbook, you're going to go looking for that penny, and that's exactly how this works too.
We did accounting in high school, and it reminds me of this story. My teacher was like, I told her, I said, I'll just give you the penny. She said, no, you have to find that penny.
Yes.
Many hours later, we found the penny, so I understand.
Yes, we do. So one thing that Austin County participates in, and we've done this since 2020, is countywide voting. As I mentioned earlier, when you get your voter registration card, pay attention to your precincts. And this is a map of all your precincts. Good thing we now have countywide voting. So when you do go vote, you do not have to go specifically to your precinct. That is not for every county, though. That's for Austin County. Some of our surrounding counties do not participate in countywide voting. And, that we made the choice to move to countywide. And in part for me is because we have a county that doesn't have a central hub. We have folks that stay in Belleville and they migrate towards Belleville, and then you have Sealy folks who migrate more towards Sealy. So the flow of all of our communities are not going to one area. They kind of more separate, if you ask me. And that's one of the reasons I felt like countywide voting is beneficial to us. I think it enhances voter participation. We no longer get a lot of phone calls saying, where do I go vote? What precinct do I have to be in? And it also has eliminated provisional ballots because a lot of people at the end of the day were showing up in locations that they were not supposed to be at. And so it
has made it easier.
Yes, I think so too.
Because sometimes I was in Belleville and then sometimes I was in Sealy. When I used to work in Houston, I'd swing back for it. Makes a difference.
It really has helped. Our early voting.
Go ahead. Let me ask you: have you noticed since you started that has the amount of people voting increased?
Yes, I think it has. I mean, we don't turn the folks away because they're in the wrong polling location, especially on election day. I have seen it's definitely beneficial to us. There is some legislation that we are anticipating coming up this next year that might want to eliminate countywide voting. So I'll be watching that closely. I hope that doesn't occur, but
so then we'd go back to
we would have to go back to to precinct base, and my fear is then we'll have some voter suppression there. But at the end of the day, let's keep my fingers crossed, and that those that can speak on our behalf, and I will be one of those that will speak on in favor of keeping it for us. There's a little over 90 counties in the entire state that currently have it, so it's been a good thing, and it's been in existence since I think the 80s. So. Early voting, we do have 2 locations currently open. We have the Annex and we have the Hill Community Center. Something that is, I can't really say it's new, but there's mandatory hours. And a lot of folks do not know that we have Saturday early voting at the Annex, and it's from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Oh.
And on Sunday, it's from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So those are mandatory hours. And then next week, we'll roll into mandatory hours at the Annex from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. as well. I hope folks will take advantage of those extended hours.
Yeah, that's nice and long. So if you work until 5 or 6, right, you still can swing by.
Right. Sealy, I've tried to accommodate the Sealy folks. That's a branch location, so I don't have to have those open hours, mandatory hours, but I am open till 6 p.m. When we are open in Sealy, and we're going to open this Saturday. That's going to be from 9 to 3 on this Saturday. They'll be closed on Sunday, and then they're open from 9 to 6 then the rest of the week as well. So since I started, we opened Sealy up to encourage more early voting participation, and it's been successful.
Good.
So I'd like to keep that going. One thing I want to express, though, I do that for these big elections. When you have constitutional amendment elections that are generally have smaller participation levels, I don't always open it up during those elections. I just keep it open in Belleville. So if some Sealy folks may say, we don't always know when you're going to be open, just always know it's going to be there for gubernatorial and presidential elections. So election day polling, that's going to be 10 locations, and those are all listed there. And we've tried to scatter them all throughout the entire county. so that there's plenty of availability for all of our voters to go to. And then the only other thing I like for everyone to know is that I have tons of notices, all the sample ballots, the voting rosters, the results on election night. They're all going to be found on the Austin County Elections website, and that website address is below. It will be there probably a lot quicker than information that you'll see even on the Secretary of State's website. And that's, I'm doing that or putting all of that there just to keep folks from having to call in and because we are in the midst of running reports and we have so many deadlines. I like to try to at least put it out there as quickly as I possibly can, so folks will know and they can stay abreast of everything. But your sample ballots are out there. We get a lot of calls on sample ballots, and those are all out there too. So the only other thing I have, so we did a contest, and I'm super excited about this. This went over really well. When you come in and vote in person, you will have an opportunity to grab one of these stickers. These stickers were designed by our students in Austin County. If you're a little person, you can get a future voter sticker, and the big people or the voters, they can have a choice of stickers that were designed by the high school students, middle and high school students. So the airplane was designed by Justin Ochoa out of Brazos Middle School. The Statue of Liberty, that was Lena Garcia's. And then I voted sticker with the Austin County checked in it was designed by Lydia Huebner. Up until now, it's been a big hit for those folks that have come in. And if you happen to see these young folks on the street, thank them for participating in the contest. It was a lot of fun for us, and know that there's no other stickers across the entire state that are designed like this. So we are unique.
How many kids did you have submit designs?
We actually had over 200 designs submitted.
Wow.
And we had a panel of 3 judges, and we had finalists from every grade, and then those judges picked from those finalists. So it was a lot of fun for us, and the judges had a lot of fun. They had a lot of good comments, and when I go back into the schools and I show these stickers and we give them out, you can tell the students are excited about it too.
Oh yeah, what a great way to get them involved prior to actually being able to vote. You know, it gives them a little pride of, I did that.
Yes. I wish I could say this is something that I thought of. I kind of El Paso County and Bastrop County were already doing it, and I thought, why not? You know, is this something to get excited about?
Right. So we won't tell anybody. We'll just give you the credit.
Is this something that's going to be on a regular basis? Like every few years you'll have a contest, or is this?
I will do this probably again for the gubernatorial election, and, you know, every 2 years. It's not an easy undertaking, but at the end of the day, it was a lot of fun. And, you know, the other counties, they do just one sticker. And it was so hard. My heart just kind of like went out, like, do you really just do one sticker? You know, can we try to do first, second, and third? Because we gave plaques away for all of those. Yeah. And so that's what we did. Will we do that going forward? I'm not sure. We'll talk about that. But, you know, these kids are super fantastic. So I felt like it, for the first time, we needed to acknowledge 1, 2, and 3 for each category. So,
yeah,
it's a good thing.
Good.
So,
I wanted to ask a question.
Sure.
Just real quick before you go. Straight ticket voting. That is something, you know, my parents are elderly, and so they're like, well, we're just going to vote, you know, for blah, and we're going to vote straight ticket. How does that work? Do we do straight ticket, or?
So you can vote straight ticket,
okay,
but you must choose each person on the ballot for that particular party.
Okay, so it's no longer I hit this one thing and bam, it goes.
That's correct.
Okay.
It will. That went away in 2018. Legislation passed, so straight party ticket does not exist per se, based upon legislation in 2018. So you clicking straight party doesn't work anymore, but that doesn't keep you from voting straight party, because you still would need to vote for every particular person of that party. So
because that was one of the things, in the past, you just clicked the one and it did all of them. And so I just wanted to ask that question.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's a good question. The young voters don't know that straight party ticket voting existed, but a lot of older folks do.
Right, and that's what I said. It was my parents, because I met mother the other day. She was talking about, we're going to go vote. We can just do straight party, and I thought, okay, and so I need to go tell her, no, you're going to have to click every one of them.
No, they sure can't. So anyway, so appreciate you having me. Everybody's vote counts. At the moment, we're a little over 5,500 voters. So with the 22,000, hopefully we'll get close to, at least I love to see 80% on up. So we are on target to get there.
Excellent. And any links that you had will be linked in the description, and we also will be posting it on Austin County News Online.
Awesome.
So people will have places to go to find that information.
Me too.
All right.
Well, I brought a set. You take us out.
Well, and that's it. Austin County, get out and vote. Every vote does count, and it's up to you to make sure our country, city, and state runs the way you want it to. So we'll see you next time.